Welcome to the 359. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
I'm Joni Salzman.
So Jeff Bezos' public life took an interesting turn. Amazon's founder and CEO has maintained a mostly positive image as a press-shy geek, but on Thursday night, his personal life spilled out onto view after he revealed an apparent blackmail plot by the National Enquirer supermarket tabloid, which was threatening to publish his racy pics, including, if I remember correctly, a below-the-belt selfie, as they described it, that he sent to his mistress. What's going on here? I guess to connect this to the fact that we work for CNET and not a fellow tabloid. What are your thoughts about this? As far as how does it impact Bezos? How does it impact Amazon? What do you think about that?
Well, it definitely puts Bezos on the forefront of a lot of different kinds of discussions, national security discussions, because the Trump administration is all wrapped up in the whole National Enquirer thing. The Mueller investigation is all wrapped up in the National Enquirer thing. So it takes Bezos as a gigantic figure as the world's richest man and also the leader of one of the most powerful companies in the world. It takes him all out of being that larger-than-life figure on a tech stage and makes him a larger-than-life figure on a world stage in terms of politics and other issues.
And he was connected to that. That's a great point. He was connected to that initially through the Washington Post. But the Washington Post and Trump was kind of at loggerheads with Bezos already to begin with about Washington Post's coverage and calling it the Amazon Washington Post and all this other stuff. But this really does seem to insert him into these long-term other controversies that Trump has been having to deal with.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a weird thing. The other interesting aspect is what does this do to his public persona? At this point, and I wrote about this on Friday, he seems to be enjoying a really nice PR coup. You know, everybody could have been talking about his racy photos. What about his judgment? What's he doing? He had this long-term marriage, and now all of a sudden he's sending photos, basically dick pics to his mistress. What's going on here? And it seems like he's really presenting himself as a hero at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people, it's been funny, and I'm sure that you noticed this being Amazon's reporter, that at the same time there was a lot of sort of who knew that I would be on Jeff Bezos' side for totally flipping the script on this attempt to blackmail the richest man in the world, which I don't know how wise that was to begin with. But it's happening at the same time that people are there's annoyance at Amazon in New York City still over the HQ2. There's annoyance at Amazon over this tipping only going into base pay for drivers issue. So there's a lot of reasons why people, there's a kind of public relations thread that's negative towards Bezos on a lot of other fronts. But this, because it's such juicy, lurid stuff, the main thing people are talking about are dick pics.
Yeah. All right, let's change gears completely. Joan, you had a chance to test out the Magic Leap AR glasses at Sundance. You watched something called A Jester's Tale using this gadget. Can you tell us a bit about A Jester's Tale? What was it like?
It was really weird. I did 3 experiences with Magic Leap while I was at Sundance. 2 of them were made by Magic Leap itself, and the third was this Jester's Tale experience that was made by a guy who has done other AR experiences in the past, but he doesn't work for Magic Leap. He was just using their technology. And it was really weird. It had this YouTube pop star in it named Poppy, who her brand is just being aggressively weird. So if you know anything about Poppy, you get a sense of just how strange this experience was. There was a live actor in it. A little boy who was trapped behind a wall, and I had to choose whether to kill him or kill myself. There was
the live actor a hologram?
Yeah. No, well, he was a hologram, and then he was also a live actor.
Weird.
Oh, I know. Well, so there was a floating ball of, the part that Magic Leap helped with was there's a floating ball of dots that was an artificial intelligence that was doing a reverse Turing test on me. It was trying to determine, it was testing me on whether or not I was a human, and asking me questions about stuff that these, what are called volumetric assets. They're basically holograms of people. This little boy and his mother and Poppy would stand in this room, and I'd walk around them. It was I know none of this really gives you a sense of what the story was supposed to be like in this experience.
Sounds totally trippy,
but it was just
though.
it was super trippy. So it's kind of hard to describe.
So the cost of this headset is $2,295. So considering that very big price, do you think Magic Leap is going to be able to really inject a lot more enthusiasm into the AR world?
Right. I mean, They've even termed that this first edition of their device is a creator edition. It's designed for people like Assad, who made this experience, to get their hands on it, make weird or crazy or interesting or tear-jerking experiences, and then they can have Magic Leap 2 or Magic Leap 3 be something that's a little more accessible. That's the idea anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, if you want to read more about these stories, check us out on CNET. I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
I'm Joni Salzman.
Thanks for listening.
All right, thanks as always for joining us for the recording of the audio podcast. You can subscribe using the links below in the description. Now it's a time for you to go ahead and send in your questions and comments. Many of you already have. Coming right out hot and heavy, here's Michael Brown. I don't think this affects Amazon. Okay, the puns are going to be through the roof today. So
yeah.
Clearly. Michael Brown says, I don't think this affects Amazon. This is more personal news than tech news. Muck Reimer says, this is a rich white person problem. Oscar says, this is all just organized distraction. I kind of feel the same way.
Organized distraction, I think, is definitely one of the more interesting theories.
I feel a little dirty about covering this.
So going back to what Joan was talking about, there are obviously a lot of criticisms about Amazon on a number of fronts. So the theory that this was intentional or this was an organized distraction to try to avoid those problems, I think, is a really interesting one. It's a fun one to talk about, but I don't really think it holds a lot of water.
That it would be distracting from some
of the criticisms about Amazon, because those criticisms are going to exist regardless. Maybe Bezos gets people to not think about this stuff for a couple of days, or maybe he gets like a little bit of a public relations windfall for a few days. But I think it would be short-lived. A lot of the criticisms about Amazon and its business, those are fundamental issues, and they don't
issues
change.
That have resurfaced over the years.
Yeah, and if anything, they've gotten louder.
Yeah.
You know, so and Amazon HQ2 in New York for sure. Going to what you said, Brian, as far as this kind of feels icky to talk about, I would say that when I had to write about Bezos's divorce, I was kind of this is a personal issue. I understand that he tweeted about it and therefore we do have to cover it because he's the CEO of Amazon. But now we're really getting into a point where this is very newsworthy. I mean, the possibility that the CEO of a major tech corporation could have his dick pics leaked to the National Enquirer and they're lording it over him. This is significant, and it is a personal situation, but it is something that does impact a major tech company, how the CEO operates that major tech company. I think that there are, the stock itself isn't really moving, so that is a bit of an indicator, but I would say that to suggest that this isn't a distraction within Amazon, how is that even possible? I'm sure a lot of people are paying attention to this.
Yeah.
Moving on, let's tackle some more questions. Great ones filing in. Timothy Dew says the timing of this is just amazing right after the divorce announcement. Talks with TJ says, why does the media use personal life to interfere with business? Do we really think that's the case here?
I think that, look, I was writing about this stuff and my hands were tied. How are you not going to write about this? As much as... as many of the lurid details and what have you, but it's Bezos came out and had a very lengthy Medium post about this is what's going on in my personal life, and this is a guy that every single time he says anything, we tend to write about it, and he tends to keep it pretty quiet. So this was an unavoidable situation.
And in terms of the timing, I think that the Bezos's announcement of their divorce was specifically because the Enquirer had already reached out and knew about his mistress.
Yeah, it seemed very likely. Without knowing 100%, the timing is really pretty stark. He announces his divorce on Twitter with his wife, and then a couple hours later, the National Enquirer comes out and says, "Hey, he has a mistress." So you do the math on that one. So
who doesn't these days? Really?
I don't have a mistress.
I'd be Bezos' mistress for that kind of money.
Yeah, I have a number of mistresses, but that's because I'm so damn good looking.
But do they deliver in under 24 hours?
What? Next question.
You mean in 2 days, in 2-day shipping?
From Mike Shaw, if I was Jeff, I'd say publish what you got. Below the belt selfie, who cares? He's not untouchable at this point, but kind of an interesting point from Mike Shaw.
Dan Savage made that argument in the New York Times. He said
Yeah.
that like the damage is already done and let's get rid of the taboo about
Yeah.
these types of pictures by just coming out with them.
Yeah.
I think that's
I don't want
really
those to come out, but I do get
that's
behind.
a dumb move.
I do get behind the idea that like no one should feel, I mean, like personally embarrassed for people to see, like it's embarrassing for people to see you in a bathing suit. It's embarrassing to see people naked. But the idea that it's like somehow a moral failing to send
or
dirty
it's
pictures.
I had poor judgment
Yeah,
for doing
to
this.
send pictures like that to someone who's your loved, like who's your partner, like whatever you want to say about extramarital or whatever. Like this was a consensual relationship. There are two people that really like each other, having a good time, and everybody does this now. I don't, but everybody
do
does
I.
this.
Good say.
It is very typical. It is typical, and I totally appreciate what you're saying as
know?
far as like treating it as judgment. You know, I think Dan Savage definitely has a point as far as that's concerned. He does take it a little far by making it a bit more philosophical than actually realistic.
Yeah.
Because nobody really wants to see Jeff Bezos' dick pic. Why? He already had the benefit of everybody like came to his side, even though he's the world's richest person.
Yeah.
Revealing these pictures, I think from a public relations standpoint is utterly nonsensical.
So the idea is that he would do it himself. He would release
Yeah,
the
to
pictures?
just get to defang the situation
I think
completely.
he already did defang the situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
to also, and I think going to Dan's point, to also be kind of a figurehead to get rid of the taboo
Yeah.
of like nudie pics or
Yeah.
whatever. And
Yeah.
like Dan Savage, he's like a sex advice columnist.
Right.
So of course he would say something
Right.
like that.
Right.
But anyway, it's a good point. That was Mike Shaw, right?
Yeah.
It was, yeah. I don't know if you read the Dan Savage piece, but you were definitely dead on with what Dan was talking about with that comment.
TJ says you can't be upset about media responding to your situation if you make it public. You affect not only your personal life, but your brand and business. So I guess to a sense, yeah, Bezos brought this on himself. To more than a sense, he absolutely brought this on himself. He cheated on his
did.
wife.
Well, except that he didn't. Like everything that he's done has been in reaction. We presume everything that he's done has been in reaction to somebody else saying we're gonna report on this.
No one
we're
said
gonna
cheat
leak
on
it."
your wife, bro.
What?
And no one said cheat on his wife.
Well, like, all right. Also, I want to just say I'm annoyed with people calling this a mistress because we don't really even
Yeah.
know, like, if they were separated and it's his girlfriend. Like,
That's spicy buzzword.
I think
You know,
you're right.
like-
I said mistress during the podcast. I think I was reading too much of the Daily Beast before we went on. I did not say mistress. I like I don't write mistress in my stories. I just said like dating or something because you're right. Mistress definitely puts more of like a lurid spin on it than is really
Right.
necessary, especially if they're separated. And apparently Lauren Sanchez is also separated.
Right.
Again, this is super weird to talk about as a tech reporter. So, and I totally get why some of the commenters are flagging that issue, but this is
Yeah.
this is what happened, you know. And we like from my perspective as a person that writes about Amazon, I now have to pick and choose as far as how much of this I really care to write about anymore. Like the Thursday stuff when he came out with this huge Medium post, obviously we're going to write about that. We're going to write about the fallout afterward, but
we'll see where it goes. Who knows
every
what happens now?
nuance, like the divorce proceedings, like I don't know. Like does CNET care about that? I'm not really sure. We'll find out.
On a scale of 1 to 10, Ben, how mad are you that we are just a gossip mill right now? With
This is-
on your
this is
beat?
this is
interesting.
not Gossip Millie compared to some of the other.
Oh, very true.
This is I like going back to what I said before. This is definitely interesting to me because it has so many potential impacts on Amazon and Bezos being like a credible leader of his company. I think so far those
Yeah.
things are fine, but at the same time, this is like material stuff to report on as opposed to the divorce, which is like people get divorced. It happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's people get separated and date other people. How much do I really care about that? Meh, you know. Okay, National Enquirer blackmail plot, and we've got your dick pics. Yeah, I'm gonna be interested in writing about that.
I mean,
and there's like a whole Trump thread and all this other
And
nonsense.
Saudi thread, apparently. Who knows?
Ugh, the Saudi thread. Yeah, there's a lot going on
Well,
here.
there'll be a lot that truth will out. So we'll eventually, maybe. know where all this stuff came from.
Right, which we didn't mention. So the Daily Beast, which has been writing a lot about this, claims that they have an exclusive from the National Enquirer, multiple National Enquirer sources that are unnamed, that it was Michael Sanchez, which is the brother of the woman Jeff Bezos is dating. How does that sound?
You can say girlfriend.
Girlfriend? Whatever.
Whatever.
So Michael Sanchez has like Republican connections. Apparently, he knows Roger Stone, and it seems very likely that it was Michael Sanchez at this point.
Yeah.
So juicy.
Very, very, very.
The brother.
Intrigue. Like,
That's
definition of intrigue.
That is not cool, bro. But whatever.
I mean, the most humiliating thing about this is that people still take naked selfies. Like, are you 12, bro? Like, are you in high school? Is that what you're doing here?
I feel like everybody does that. Doesn't everybody do that?
This reminds
that
me.
doesn't make it any less humiliating.
This reminds me
But
of.
that's the thing. I don't think it is humiliating. If everybody does it, why is it humiliating?
I agree with you.
I think it's very childish.
well, maybe.
Is so. You remember there was a major Google executive. It was Eric. He used to be the chairman. He was
Eric Schmidt?
Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt was asked about like when things come out on the internet and they're embarrassing, whatever. He said something that like a lot of people felt was like very, very puritanical, which was if you don't want embarrassing things about you to come out on the internet, don't do them in the first place.
Right.
Which is like so judgy. So
Yeah.
going back to the point of like, should you or shouldn't you do like dick pics or naked pics in the first place? It's kind of like live your life.
No. Yeah, no. No.
All right, Brian, we get the point.
We get the point. All right, maybe I shouldn't be espousing such things, but whatever.
Yeah, let's not espouse tolerance and understanding for other people when they make errors in judgment.
Errors in judgment.
It's not a big deal. This is the ultimate thing. It's so not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Don't normalize it either.
Right. It's not a big
cares?
deal. It's not a big deal.
This is a very interesting conversation. I was not expecting to start my Monday this way. This is eye-opening.
I say if you point a camera at your wee-wee, you're just asking for trouble there. You might as well just go
All
ahead
right,
and get into
Eric
porn.
Schmidt. You and Eric can hang out.
Whatever.
All right, anyways, let's try to move on. Mike Shaw says, if the National Enquirer is blackmailing Bezos, can't he just sue them out of business?
He could buy them.
He could buy them out of
absolutely
business.
like
buy
80
them.
times over. Plus.
Michael Brown says, what are some of the criticisms of Amazon and their business practices? And Storm King wants to expand on that, saying how much of his personal affairs are really going to impact the stocks.
It hasn't impacted the stock much at all. So there's that answer.
I mean,
As far
personal
as-
stuff from a CEO, like Elon Musk is a great example where he's shown real errors in judgment, like smoking pot on camera, which
Or like
pot is
having, like-
legal in lots of places where he's doing, but it's still just, and then like all this stuff with
He had a
like,
total emotional, very
Yeah.
public emotional breakdown.
yeah. So like that's an example where a CEO's personal behavior has had an impact on a stock. This, however, has been fairly limited
Yeah.
in Amazon's case.
The other the other issue to pay attention to as it relates to Amazon is that Amazon is a company of 650,000 people. He has multiple executives that have been with the company for a long time that he can lean on. If he's having times of trouble or difficulty in his personal life, there are two co-CEOs that run major parts of the business that had those been their own standalone businesses would probably be Fortune 500 companies.
Right.
So Jeff is probably going to be fine dealing at least with his divorce. The issue is what goes on with this National Enquirer stuff. Is that going to drag on? Is that going to turn into like a whole criminal proceeding? Because that is going to get distracting. And not if it's criminal and deal with it. But it's hard to operate your business when you have all these different distractions going on.
And then what are some of the things that are recurrent?
A lot of it really has to do with treatment of workers.
Yeah.
That's really been the most recurrent issue, and that seems to me to be directly related to the fact that Amazon seems to be against unionization, or they're openly against unionization of their workforce, and unions don't really like that, especially with their warehouses. So they butt heads a lot with the unions. And there have been a lot of exposés about how the warehouse workers are treated, how the delivery drivers are treated. That's something that's been ongoing for years.
Yeah.
All right, let's hereby hope that it really doesn't impact the company that much because those workers have had it rough enough already. But the most important question on the table, how long until the porn parody?
Oh, I think it's already happened.
Probably.
It's a great question because it's almost certainly occurred.
All right, moving on. Let's talk Sundance. To me, it's kind of weird that Sundance has become such a platform for tech-related topics. Not that it's not easy to kind of tie those connections later, being that it's the entertainment aspect of it. But Michael Brown is asking, Magic Leap has been around for a while. Do we expect it to ever really start to reach the masses soon? And that's a question on everybody's mind who's interested in VR AR.
Yeah, so Magic Leap's been around for a while in the sense that as a company, it's existed for like 4 years, something like that. Yeah, about 4 years. But it's first product that people could actually see and touch and be like, it's all actually real. It's not just fake. That only came out like 5 months ago. And that was Magic Leap 1. It's the one that's like $2,300. And the idea, like I said, is that it would be something that creators and developers are the ones that mostly are the people. That's the kind of the target for this edition of Magic Leap. And then subsequent versions of it would be cheaper and more accessible for people, and also better. Like right now, it has some downfalls. As with a lot of AR headsets, the field of view is limited. So like if you had a giant T-Rex standing in front of you, you'd be like, I can see the head and neck, and now I can see the body, and now I can see the tail. You can't see the whole thing at once because the field of view is so small.
Then you back up.
Sorry?
Then you got to back up.
Or, you could back up if you're in a giant warehouse, or if you're in your living room, as this is intended to be used, you can't because you have walls that you'll bump into.
How much does that take you out of the experience?
A lot. Magic Leap has a better field of view than HoloLens, which is the only other really functional out there AR headset. So it's better than what HoloLens, which hasn't been updated in a while. It's better than that. But there's a lot. It's a really brand new technology. Literally, in the case of Magic Leap, this is the first public version available. And so there's a lot of things that need to be improved upon for it to be something that people really get excited about. The price needs to come down. There needs to be more content for it, reasons for you to try it. And the technology itself has some kinks to work through.
Speaking of excited, I'm just kind of curious, what was your personal highlight of the different selections you actually saw at Sundance? What was the one that you really thought was kind of fun?
Of the Magic Leap ones?
Yeah. Let's stay to that.
Of the Magic Leap ones, I liked the Jester's Tale most just because it was so bizarre. It was so weird. The other ones definitely felt the ones that Magic Leap itself presented, they were very kind of polished,
safe.
Like they were safe. They'd already been presented at their convention, their developer conference in October. So they brought Micah, which is their humanoid artificial intelligence, kind of like a digital assistant, but it's not designed to like answer your questions and set your timer. And then they also had this performance of a Shakespearean monologue by this Royal Shakespeare Company actor who's a little hologram standing in front of me. And they were really good. They were really well done, and the animation was great, and it looked really real and clever, but it was definitely not taking risks. And so A Jester's Tale took a lot of risks. It was really out there. So that one made more of an impression.
And they were saying that Jester's Tale is coming to can I call it home video? It's coming to VHS. It'll be available to the public later this year, right?
Yeah. So the idea, I don't know exactly how they'll do it because Assad said that they are going to release a mobile version of it.
That's it, mobile. Yeah.
Yeah, like a mobile AR version of it sometime in the second quarter, which basically means the next 4 months.
Oh, that's sooner than I thought. I was figuring like end of year.
No, anything can change, and I don't exactly know how a mobile AR version would work because so much of the version that I saw, it was set in a bedroom where it was kind of like the set itself was very elaborate with a bed and there was a desk and there was a key in the desk I had to pull out and there were pictures and bookshelves and bric-a-brac all over the place. And the volumetric assets like of the little boy, the holograms of the little boy and the mother and of Poppy and of these other computer generated characters. It's all very specific in this room. The boy sits on the bed, the mother sits him on the bed with him and, comforts him. And Yeah, and I don't really know exactly how it worked, but I don't know. Assad's he's like a wonderkind. He's annoyingly smart, and he's like 22 years old, so I'm sure he'll figure it out.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive that he managed to, or like when you talk about like risk taking, it makes sense that the finished product was kind of more of a risk taking effort because it doesn't seem like there are that many third party developers that are actually making Magic Leap content at all because it's so new.
There are some, but like we don't know about them yet because like I said, Magic Leap's only been out for about 5 or 6 months. And that's only given creators that weren't already like kind of welcomed into the fold previously. Like Royal Shakespeare Company had been working with Magic Leap before the release of Magic Leap 1. So there have been, the NBA also has been working with Magic Leap on some other stuff. But nobody really has had a chance to get their hands as a consumer, as a user, and try it, except for people like Scott Stein and me and people that happen to go to this conference, the Magic Leap conference. Normal people just don't have access to the technology to view it. So even like people like Scott and I have only had a chance to try a few things from Magic Leap. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what
Sounds like it'll
happens.
take a couple of years for it to trickle down.
Yeah.
Timothy asks, if AR, VR really starts picking up, do you think within 10 years we'll have Ready Player One status tech world? Ooh, yeah.
Sure.
Right. Mike Shaw
10
says,
years.
Mike Shaw asks, how soon can I go to the Super Bowl in VR? Or, more importantly, a Def Leppard concert?
Well,
Mike, I'll be there with you for that one.
I mean, there's already lots of examples of going to sporting events or concerts in virtual reality. Not necessarily Def Leppard and not the Super Bowl, but the NBA has been very aggressive in doing like courtside VR experiences, or you get to pick your placement where you can be like in the hallway where the players run out, so you can be there when they like come out for their let's get ready to rumble or whatever moment. You can be on the sidelines, you can be in the stands, you can choose where in the stands. And then there have been a lot of concerts that people have recorded for VR or broadcast live in 360 for VR for a while. And so that's definitely people are exploring. I mean, they're trying to figure out whatever they can figure out to make it something that people want to do. And we'll see. I think that with Oculus Quest coming out this year, that's the one where it's like you get what's called 6 degrees of freedom, where it can like recognize where you are without having to set up cameras all over the place. It just kind of knows where you are from a camera in the headset. You don't have to wear a backpack or anything like that. I think that's going to be really interesting because it's kind of finally the one that sort of hits the main things that you need VR to be able to do.
Yeah, those aspects seem to be really critical.
Yeah,
as far
it's pretty
as
affordable.
Getting people on board, because obviously in some of the earlier rigs where you had to pay for a really expensive PC tower, and then you have to like plug it in like you're in the Matrix.
Being tethered to it, that's a big deal for a lot of people.
It's a lot. It's a lot to deal with, and it's not anywhere close to being for like mainstream consumers or for like everyday like video like gamers, like PC gamers. Like some of them will be into it and some of them won't be.
And then on the other hand, like the low end with like Gear VR, a 99-cent headset that where you stick phone in, or like the Pixel VR, I can't remember what Google called their whatever.
I don't remember.
The ones where you like stick the phone in and that's the brains.
Daydream,
right. Those are great in the sense that they make things accessible, but the experiences that you have on that, because you don't have that 6 degrees of freedom thing, it's really just like a 360 viewer. So you can sit in a chair like this and spin around and see things. But you can't play a game. You can't like reach out to somebody in social VR and wave to them and actually have your avatar wave or anything like that. Although with Google, you had a controller, so you could kind of do that. Anyways, I think it'll be really interesting when Quest comes out to see what happens. If people are already over it and just don't want to care about VR anymore, or if it could be something that actually takes off.
With the very limited amount of time we got left, let's talk resolution and ranking. Mike Shaw is very curious how Magic Leap deals with resolution. He thinks that perhaps, to his understanding, you need to have 4K in each eye. Oscar's wondering where PSVR falls on the spectrum. Michael Brown says we should pit them together with Magic Leap, HoloLens, Google Glass. Who really has the best visual presentation? Who looks best to the naked eye?
Well, if we're talking AR, it's been a long time since I tried HoloLens. I haven't tried HoloLens in over maybe even 2 years. Like I said, it's been a while since HoloLens has been updated. And my only experience with HoloLens has been in a demo environment. Scott Stein would be great because he like gets out and gets to try those things all the time. Not all the time, but more than I do. I don't know about resolution type stuff, but I can say just from like offhand experiences, Magic Leap, the visuals on a Magic Leap headset are much better and look more real and feel less, you don't get pulled out of the reality of what you're seeing as often as you do with HoloLens. I think mostly because of the field of view being better on Magic Leap. But, and those are all better than Google Glass because Google Glass is like, it was a failure.
Well, not only that, but like it was a version of AR that was very simple.
Yeah.
You just basically put a very, very tiny computer screen, if I remember correctly,
Right.
in front of one of your eyes.
Which is like the true version. So there's all these different definitions. The true definition of augmented reality is literally just like Google Glass, where it's just like digital information on top of the world. And HoloLens and Magic Leap like to talk about mixed reality, the idea that one of the holograms could walk around the table, and as they walk around the table, you lose the visual of the bottom half of their body. You know, like that it interacts with the things that are actually in the room around you and not just like overlay on top. And so if you're ever interested, if you ever want to be annoying at a party, super annoying at a party, and tell people like, that's not really augmented reality, that's a mixed reality. That's the difference between the two. So that's another reason why it's kind of like an unfair comparison between Magic Leap and HoloLens and that genre, and then like the Google Glass. Was there another question I didn't address? Somebody else asked a question. I can't remember.
He's talking about resolution.
I don't know much. Yeah, Scott's a better guy to ask that question. He's we can't beam him in quite yet. Soon we'll work on that, on beaming in Scott at a moment's notice.
Using AR, mixed reality. My mistake, because he's got to sit behind the desk.
We'll bring a Scott hologram in. Wait, how do we know you guys aren't just augmented mixed reality holograms?
We
I
are.
took a Turing test, man. I took a reverse Turing test, and I'm human because I didn't kill a boy. That's how we know. Actually, I don't know.
I am a hologram, so there's that. Sorry,
What it would
guys.
mean if he was a hologram, I could punch him right in the face.
And it would just go right
It'd
through.
go right through me.
All right, go for
I'm
it.
not gonna punch you.
Like in
right.
Star Wars. Oh, Google Glass, the virtual boy of augmented reality. In the meantime, we will work on getting Scott in here, so bring those questions back, but we are out of time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for your great questions. We will see you again tomorrow. Ben, get us out of here.
All right, the 359 is available on iTunes, TuneIn, FeedBurner, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Google Podcasts, the Amazon Echo, and of course, CNET.com. Thanks, everybody, for your great questions. We will probably not do more gossip stuff tomorrow, but who knows? Nobody knows what's going to happen with Jeff Bezos' life. But anyway, thanks again. We'll see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.